Alright, hey, what's up? We're doing IEM Atlanta. I said I was going to do this a while ago, and then I got really tired and really exhausted and decided to not do it because I was yawning so much during the thing, and I felt like a lot of my points weren't connecting, so I was like, we'll just wait a day, or wait a day, and then that one day became 2 days, then 3 days. I think it's been 4 days at this point, and CAC has already started, so yeah, but that preview for CAC, it's not happening. But I will do the recap. The finals is going on right now between Falcons and Legacy in about like 10 minutes or something. So I decided to record this in between, so I can do this now and get this out of the way because I think some people are curious. I saw some messages or comments on my video. It sounds like people are interested on my opinions of the tournament, so I want to talk about it. This is definitely the tournament I watched less of. PGL Astana was a majority of my focus because the time it works better with me. I can watch more of the games during that time because I'm a bit of an early riser, maybe too early of a riser if I'm being honest, but um, it just works easier with my time frame. And on top of that, I felt like a lot. I was more interested in some of the teams there, even though Atlanta had quite a few teams that I was actually interested in watching. Teams like Passion UA, BC Game. I was curious about Sinners, but not super curious. Sinners, I've watched a bit in Tier 2 and I know about them, but they weren't a team I was like super hyped on or anything. I thought, they might do okay, but I had to see. And Gamer Legion, of course, Gamer Legion, my beloved. But yeah, I was curious. Sorry, sip of coffee. So yeah, we'll just get into it, and we'll go from the last place results to the first place results in order. So we'll go last first. Talking about the first game, BC Game. BC Game is a bit of a mess. I don't really know how to rate this team right now. BC Game, I feel like, despite picking up Senzu and despite actually getting a firepower upgrade, I don't think this team has improved at all. I understand Skrunk is a liability on um, liability in terms of fragging. Like his fragging is really bad. Like when you go, like I don't want to do this too much where I pull up the stats, but he was the lowest rated player at the tournament. He had a 0.37 KD, which is wild, minus 39. So really bad fragging wise, but he has always been a bad fragger, even when he was in Fireflux with Banjo and Soulfly. He was quite a bad fragger there. He was not able to get he never could put up numbers even against tier 2 tier 3 opposition, so I'm not really surprised, but I figured Senzu, Electronic, Simple, that should be enough to carry. But other pieces like that didn't really live up to the billing that was required. People like, um, hold on, where is Simple? Simple had one really good map against Vitality on Dust 2, where you saw some of those old Simple shots, the old Simple flare, but didn't have it when he versed up against Bait later in the tournament. It basically just costed them that map, or costed them the series because of that, because he didn't show up right. Electronic, I think, was mostly okay. I don't remember too many bad moments from Electronic. Oh, yes, he had one really bad moment. So actually, he did cost them one really awful round where he was against a full eco, I think against Vitality on Mirage, and he jumps like he's window on Mirage. He jumps into window. There are like three guys underpass and two guys top mid, and he just dies and gives him an M4. Sensu tries to go get the refrag, right, the trade, and then he dies, and then it's 3v5, and they're in this awful situation where they get ecoed because of it, right? So BC Game are a bit of a mess, and I don't think it's Skrunk's fault, and I don't think it's Senzu's fault. Senzu had some. He made a few mistakes, especially in the Vitality game. I think in the bait game he was much better. If we want to check, the big game he was much better. 109, 108, 105, like right. Skrunk still low fragging, but I kind of expected that. Again, he's their analyst who is now um, standing in for them for a period, right? Skrunk has always been bad fragging wise, so I don't know. BZ Game are a mess. I don't think this tournament has really changed any of my opinions on that. I always kind of figured they were a mess and they were going to be a mess, but it is what it is. Energy, I watched Energy probably the least out of most of the other teams here. I didn't really watch this Foot game, but I saw Foot dominated, and I kind of figured when it was their opening matchup. When I look at Foot, every single one of the individuals probably shoots harder than the individual on the other side, right? Like Demon, Jugas, Corbeni, like these guys all frag incredibly hard. Lonks as well, all frag incredibly hard, and are basically just better players than the other side, almost in every single conceivable metric, right? I like Grim. I think Nitro's a pretty okay caller, and I think OC has been He's had an uptick in performance this year, but even then, I kind of figured, yeah, they're probably going to get dominated. They're going to lose. And then they versed FaZe in the lower bracket, and it wasn't really close. Frozen, just smashed them, Twist smashed them, Brokey even, uh, reclaimed some of his old form. So, yeah, Energy I didn't watch much of. I watched his FaZe Energy game, but when I watched it on Nuke, it wasn't particularly close, right? So, not necessarily shocking. Disappointing result because it's in Atlanta, right? You want the NA boys to actually do well, but that is what it is. They did verse some tough opposition in their first two games, but I do think, considering Foot's form later in the tournament, I think they were beatable if Energy showed, if maybe they had better player quality, right? Passionate is a bit of a sad case because Passionate are actually no longer a team. I'm pretty sure they're selling the team, which is a bit of a sad because I feel like this team actually does have potential. I saw some very good things from them at this tournament, despite the 0-2 result in the last place result, right? I think particularly this Navi Passionate game. I watched the Anubis. The Anubis game was really close, and I was actually super impressed with how they were playing on CT side. On CT side, they were going for these mid-round and early round aggressions off these set players. They were enabling Kavem and even JT to go for their own plays. Even Try was going for a lot of like opening picks. They went for like a boost to B main. They went for a water push on CT side to like disrupt them and stop their timings. With Kavem just hopping out gap or window, right? Like whatever you want to call that, Kool-Aid. I don't know what you would call it, but hopping out there and just getting multi kills. Like I think Kavem played extremely well, which is what I even predicted. I literally said because Senzu is off the roster, Kavem's going to get more space in his roles. He's going to be able to be that aggressive star, and that's what he was. SCY is like a supportive piece, and JT fragging wise was pretty good, right? Mirage I didn't watch, but it looks like they just got smashed, right? Um, and I think all of them kind of underperformed besides Kavem. And then the Sinners game was actually doable. I think they could have won against Sinners. I think they're relatively similar opposition level of team. I think Kavem played extremely well on Dust 2. He was getting so many opening picks. I love the T side calling from JT. I think JT played extremely, or called a really good Dust 2 when I was watching it. Mirage, also takeable. I'm pretty sure it was their map pick and they lost, which kind of sucks because I wanted Passionate to beat Sinners because I actually have more faith for this Passionate squad. But sadly, Passionate, they're selling the team after this, and I think it's a bit sad. I think a lot of the pieces are good. I think Kavem, very talented. When I watched him on the old Passionate at 2025, right? Almost beginning of 2025, with the full Ukrainian lineup when he had Topa, World 2K, Demka, Jakazmo, and Kim. He was really standout. He was a big standout for that team, and he was so mechanically talented on there. So I really rated Kavem there. I still think is a good AWPer. I think he's a better AWPer than a decent amount of the tier one AWPers in the current thing. I think he does have his off games, but I think for the most part, he sometimes has these incredible like godlike moments in terms of how mechanically gifted he can be. Right, like on a rifle, on an op, he's amazing on both. Nickx, I think for the most part, Nickx has actually been fine. I know a lot of people have been calling for his head in like HLTV forums and like Twitch chat. I think Nickx has been okay considering the roles he plays. I feel like so much people hate Nickx, but if you like look what he actually does on the anchoring spots, sure he makes mistakes, but for the most part, he's reliable in his positions. I don't think are there things he could improve 100%, but I don't think he's been too bad. JT still a color I think could go to better teams, and SDY didn't show up at this tournament, but again, I still have faith in SDY. So, in my opinion, if there's another org that wants to buy this squad, I would just buy it. You get the VRS score, you get the all the pieces. Like this is a decent squad that I think if you give them time, they will develop. Because I saw a lot of good things despite losing. Right, JT, I think fragging wise has gone up. Again, T side looks a bit rough, but I imagine that's because of the Mirage. Their T sides were a bit rough, I think, on Mirage and Overpass when they were Sinners, and on Mirage versus Navi, I think they really struggled. Even on Anubis, they struggled. I think they had like a 9-3 lead and they kind of lost it, right? Um, and then Kavem was incredible. Like he had so many impactful openings. I'm pretty sure if you go for the openings on CT side, 32%, 61, right? On T side, still good, 27, 46. It's like rather solid, right? So I think they're two pieces you could 100% pick up and build around. Same thing with Try. I think Nick X is still good. You can put him on an NA roster, and I think he would improve a decent amount of NA rosters within the tier 2 realm. Probably just needs more time and more development. As to why I think is still a good supportive piece. So I'm not out on Passion UA despite them disbanding and likely selling the team. The next squad we're talking about is M80. Now, I managed to catch this match because I was just woke up and this match went into like midnight my time. M80, I was watching the M80 Liquid game, I should specify, right? M80, I think this is a very disappointing result, partially because I think Slacks has kind of regressed. I think Slacks last year was kind of breaking out of this habit or was breaking out of the mold of tier 2 NA farmer into an actual tier 1 decent AWPer. In my opinion, he was having a lot of impact and he was getting a lot better, particularly at like Blast Open London. Blast Open London, I think, was the one tournament I watched him at, and I was actually really impressed with what he was doing, how he was playing. He was playing so confidently. He was going head to head against Torji and beating him in a lot of cases, despite losing that series, right? In my opinion, they arguably should have won it, and that's when I started getting off the mouse train and was like, maybe mouse are dead. And that's where I saw a lot of good things from Hex. But then obviously with the JBA change, I don't think they've had the same success since. They go out last place here. They face up against Legacy. I expect Legacy to win. Most of the time, Legacy have had better results this year. I think they have more talented pieces, even though I like and JBA. And I still think Sin and Slacks are decent, as well as Swisher. Swisher has had a massive uptick this year. I still imagine Legacy were going to win this always. And then M80 Liquid, this game was a mess. Like, I'm not going to. It was a mess. Slacks completely underdelivered. Lake was struggling. JBA was struggling. Swisher and Sin were the only two fighting back. Nath had to hard carry this team where Elige was like doing nothing. Like, Elige is my NA GOAT, but like I have to flame him at this point because he hasn't been putting up numbers for quite a while, and he was doing nothing, especially on T side, which is the one spot where Elige was always known for was his T side. He was always known for being a T side star. Not he was more of a CT side star in CS:GO, but in CS2 he's been a T side star. Wasn't delivering any numbers. There's like Mobs and Naf basically dragging this team, and even at CIC, which their most recent event, it was that case. So M80 very disappointing result. They could have taken this Liquid game if they just closed it out on their map pick of Inferno. And I think Liquid are a worse team than M80. My opinion. I think Liquid have more problems than M80. But they lost this game because player quality, right? Naf and Mobs are they just went above and beyond and they carried that game. So unfortunate, but they go out last place. It's disappointing. Again, a lot of the NA teams just didn't do anything at this tournament, which kind of sucks for someone who is an NA fan and wants to see these players succeed. Next team we're talking about is FaZe. FaZe, I think, had an okay tournament and basically did everything I asked of them besides lose to Pain. However, Pain are another South American squad that, similar to 9Z, where they have one tournament wonder a year, right? Every year they'll have one amazing tournament out of nowhere and they'll overperform. And this tournament, it happened at Atlanta, right? So in this tournament, they beat FaZe in the opening matchup. It wasn't particularly close. On Dust 2, it looked like a lot of. It just looked like the individuals were more on for Pain. It looked like Snow and Puria were just like smashing them on every attempt to take middle, right? Like they tried to go mid to B a lot, and it just wasn't working. Anubis, I watched less of, but even then, it didn't look particularly close. This was Payne's, I'm pretty sure Payne's pick, and it just looked like Payne were more comfortable on the map. So yeah, I think this is a game where FaZe just didn't show up. And then the second game they played, NRG, player quality is just too high for NRG. Frozen and Twist are still elite level riflers, like debatably top 10 riflers on their day. Twist, IGLing now, but still good individual for an IGL. And Frozen, I love Frozen, right? So I'm always going to favor Frozen in that because, in my opinion, Frozen's like a top 5 rifler, debatably, when he is actually playing well. And then this Vitality game I watched, and it was very fun. This Nuke game I loved watching. I had so much fun. I was like, Netu was going for these crazy plays. Netu actually surprised me at this tournament. I think a lot of the criticisms I had against Netu about him not being cerebral enough, I think I've started to realize, okay, he actually has far more cerebralness than I gave credit for. So I think Netu has actually been a rather good pickup. Jacob and Brokey really struggled, and they didn't have enough impact at all. Brokey was missing sitters and some easy shots that he should have hit. Frozen and Twist were doing what they could, in my opinion, on that nuke. And on Dust 2 wasn't particularly close. It's Vitality's best map. Even without practice, they're still going to dominate FaZe on that map. So yeah. But if you look at it, I think Twist, good tournament. Like if you look at the stats are good, right? The stats, the KPR and DPR, he's dying a lot, but the KPR is like absurdly high for an IGL, and the multi-kill rate. And then for Frozen, deaths are low, but the KPR is really high. I'm pretty sure it's high on both sides. 0.84, 0.69. So, haha. But not really surprising. I think Frozen has looked reinvigorated, revitalized with this new phase roster. I think this phase roster actually has life. And what I saw from this phase roster is consistency. I actually saw something to cheer for and to maybe be optimistic about, because I think phase for a while has been very disappointing. But I think with this one, especially with Frozen changing his roles, Frozen's playing more of the opener roles, and I think that's something a lot of people have always said. Frozen's not an opener, he's not a map control player, but he 100% can play those positions. He just doesn't want to, right? I think when you watched Frozen on 2022 Mouse, he always had that skill set because he's a very flexible player, but he's more of a closer, right? He wants to trade frag and he wants to close out rounds, but he showed me a lot of good things with how he plays the map control positions at this tournament. Now moving on to the next team, which is Foot. Foot, very disappointing tournament. I said they should have made semis. They didn't even make it to semis, not even close. Didn't even make playoffs, which is disappointing. They lost to Pain. This match was incredibly close, but even then, I still think Foot have better pieces across the board. I think Demon, Jugas, Kraveni, Lonks, they should all frag, but Lonks this tournament was really bad, and Symmetry I don't rate as an AWPer. He's fine, but he's not great. He's better with a rifle, which is kind of like the ultimate thing, but you know, we'll talk about that when we talk about it. They beat Energy easily. They lose to Pain very close, but this is because Lonks kind of cost them this map, in my opinion. Like Lonks, if Lonks shows up, if Lonks dropped his like 1.10 or 1.20 this tournament, which he's been normally good for, right? Like if you check Lonks the entire year, how do I do this? Okay, hold on. This is gonna take a while. If you check Lonks this entire tournament, he's a 1.09, right? But I imagine because of this tournament, he went down by quite a way, right? See, green, 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 green across the board. He's been good as the opener, but this tournament he just didn't show up for whatever reason. This was one of his roughest tournaments. It could be because of lack of practice, maybe because personal things, but he was just really rough this tournament. He wasn't finding any impact at all. He was dying a lot. He was just looked very uncomfortable this tournament. It just didn't look on. So then they first Bait, and Bait was a team I was keeping my eye on I was keeping my eye on because I wanted to pay attention to this team because I thought I saw an uptick in Sizzy's performance. I saw some good things out of Essential. NPL, Kenzasora I still like as players, and Alex I think is an okay caller for this level of squad. And then Bait upset them, which in my opinion Foot are should be the favorites, but I understand both are young squads, both with relatively equal in terms of talent and pieces. I would say Foot have better player talent, but I would say Bait have more experience. Is how I would put it. I would say Sizzy's a better AWPer than Symmetry, though. Like an actual AWPer, not just thing, right? So they lose that and they go out in lower semis. They don't even make it to playoffs. In my opinion, that's disappointing. Now, a lot of upsets did happen in this tournament, so like the results you kind of have to keep with a grain of salt because things, a lot of tournament results were kind of a bit rough, like to judge because of the upsets happening and kind of ruining the tournament. Not ruining the tournament, ruining the typical results that normal teams would have because like FaZe having the verse vitality in the lower semis is like, well, how can I blame FaZe? They versed vitality. Like that's not fair. Like regardless of practice or not, Vitality are still one of the best team in the world right now, in my opinion. Right? And but the problem with Foot is they lost to Bait, and Bait, in my opinion, is a team that they should be beating because I think they have better player quality. And on top of that, I think Bait are a team that with a new piece in Sizzy, right? And Sizzy is still developing. He's young. But I just want to point out like the two bad pieces were Symmetry and Lonks. They had rough tournaments, especially Lonks. Lonks had a really rough tournament. Symmetry, a lot of people, I still surprised this guy won MVP over Jugas. In my opinion, Jugas was the very clear MVP of PGL Bucharest. I understand Symmetry had a great grand finals, but I don't care. Jugas, in my opinion, earned that MVP at PGL Bucharest. But moving on. Disappointing tournament from Foot. Liquid, I don't even know how to feel about this team, and I think I'm getting more and more mad at this team every day. Losing to Astralis, I'm fine with it. I think Astralis have shown more this year than Liquid, and I understand they're still developing. NAF, really rough game. This was a very poor Dust 2. I think they picked Dust 2 is the worst part too. Which, by the way, I want to just say this right now. Liquid have no identity. They have no idea. They have no style of play that they're connecting. They're playing like this weird, like mesh that I don't know what they're playing. They're not playing like a you know how like when you watch a Snappy team, when you watch NIP, you know it's Snappy's team. You know it's his style of calling because they play a lot of nuke. They go for a lot of poppy fast plays like set plays, right? They love chaos, right? You can tell it's Snappy's team through and through. And in my opinion, NIP are a far more interesting team and a team I have far more faith with when I watch them play, despite them losing some criminal series, struggling to close out series, doing all those things, right? But in my opinion, they are far more convincing to me to have a potential to be a good team than Liquid right now. Liquid has none of that. They have no. The pieces are struggling. Like the star pieces are struggling. Leech has been struggling. NAF has actually been good in my opinion. I think NAF has been a bit underrated. I think Mobs has done exactly what he should be doing as the hard opener. And I think Ultimate. I don't rate Ultimate. I'm just gonna say it. I don't rate him. But I also can't like completely blame him because I think the calling has just been whatever. The calling has been mid. It just doesn't look well coordinated. It doesn't look well connected. The ideas are there's no style of calling with this team in my opinion. Like I don't know what style they're trying to play, which is the problem I have with Liquid right now. So anyway, they lose to Astralis on their map pick of Dust 2, whatever. They then go into their map. They lose their own map pick again in Dust 2. They just get outshot, which I don't know why they keep trying to make Dust 2 their map pick, but whatever. They then beat them on Inferno. They then stomped them on Ancient. This Ancient game wasn't close. I'm pretty sure this is when, like, Mobs was just putting it up in them against his whole team. Wasn't even close. And then they verse Gamer Legion, and they get stomped again, and it's not really close. Towson just masterclasses on them, right? Elite struggles again, despite playing the playmaker roles, which I'm starting to get mad at Elite, even though he's my GOAT, my NA GOAT, but, like, he is starting to piss me off at this point, because it's like, you've gotten the rules, you're having Mobs hard entry, and you're still not putting up numbers. Like, what has happened? Which makes me believe you got to change IGL and you got to change coach. And ultimate. You have to change three pieces. Op, IGL, coach. In my opinion, you can hold on to Shui, but get Ash from Gamer Legion, even though he's off Gamer Legion now, so I don't even think he has a buyout. And then ultimate, replace with Try. If you can buy Try, buy him. If not, if you don't want to get Ash, get JT. Get JT and Try and put them on this team. That's my opinion. I think for Flashy, it's just too early to be a coach of this team with the stars they have and the players they have because they're tenured and experienced and veterans who have actually won stuff. Where Flashy, he's just been an analyst on Navi, right? So, yeah, Liquid, disappointing tournament again. But I'm getting used to that with Liquid. Sinners, I think an okay tournament. I think taking the one win against Passion UA is not too bad. Losing it to Astralis in a semi-close fashion, right? I think Ryu kind of just showed up on this map, so not much they can really do. Across it, I saw some good things, especially in this Passion UA game. This Passion UA game was a bit sad because I want Passion to win. However, I think Sinners played well. I think Shock Kisarek is the star rifler of the team, and I think he showed why he's the star rifler of the team in this game. He had a lot of impact, a lot of high multi-kill rounds where he was just winning them for them single-handedly almost. Shock as well, having a lot of impact with his anchor support positions, and then Moto as well. I think was the better operator on the server than Try. So that sucks for Passion. In the opening game, they lost to Gamer Legion. This game was really close. I'm pretty sure Gamer Legion picked Mirage and lost. I might be wrong though. Nope, Sinners picked Mirage. Okay, so I was wrong. Uh, but yeah, Gamer Legion lost. This is a map that Gamer Legion plays a lot of. I think playing Gamer Legion semi-close is a pretty good sign. However, Rez was Omega carrying this game, where PR and Towson were kind of struggling a bit. So I do think it's um, not completely fair to like be like, oh well, they versed Gamer Legion at their peak because they weren't. It was like their first match, right? But it was also Sinners' first match, so playing them close I think is fairly good. And I think across the board, Sinners played well. I didn't watch a lot of their games. I watched some of their games afterwards in like 2 times speed because I needed to watch all the games and have an idea of what I'm talking about for this video. But I think they had an okay tournament result. I'm not overly disappointed. They're a tier 2 team getting invited to these tier 1 tournaments. I think them taking even one win is good enough, right? They took it against Passion UA, a team who I had more faith for at this tournament. I thought maybe they could make playoffs if everything went right with SDY's pickup and them getting resuited into his star roles, right, and having more space on the team as well as JT. But that didn't happen. It is what it is. Bait was a team I was paying attention to and was one of the teams I said could make top six at this tournament, and I wouldn't be surprised. Well, they made it one game short because they had the Verse Vitality in their lower finals, which kind of sucks. But I think Bait, for the most part, played a good tournament, and especially Sizzy. I think Sizzy was a player I highlighted that was going to get better and better, or has been getting better and better every single event. And I think he has gotten better and better every single event if we check, right? So this is most recent, right? CS Asian Championships he wasn't good at, but IEM Atlanta he was good at. Rio he was good at. Bucharest, in my opinion, was pretty impactful when you watch a lot of the games. I know the stats don't really show that, but he had a really important clutch. I remember, I think it was against Aurora, or I forget who it was against. It was against a team, a decent team. It was a really impactful, like, 1v2 clutch. They won this, right? But I think Sizzy has been getting better and better, and I'm willing to let him play a bit more because, in my opinion, I think he is going to he's going to improve because he's only 16 years old. He's a very young kid. I think he still has a lot of potential when I watch his demos and I watch his game because the eye test tells me he's got the mechanics. It's just all about getting the confidence, building up the repetition, and in my opinion, playing a little more passive. I think he is an aggressive style AWPer, but in my opinion, he needs to be able to play a little more late round, play a little more passive, a little more static like, right? Instead of going for picks all the time. Because I think for one thing, I think he does is he loves going for underpass picks. He likes playing in connector with his like connector player, right? And I think he likes going for like the stairs pick on Mirage. Those are the spots I kind of know him for doing, as well as ladder pick. He loves the ladder pick, but I swear he dies every time he goes for the ladder pick with the op. So yeah, I think the one somebody who did show up at this tournament, I think, was Essential and Kenzasor. I think they actually had quieter tournaments. We can check. I should have pulled this up beforehand, but I forgot to. Uh, Players. Yeah, so Zizzy and MPL were the best pieces. Alex kind of expected for an IGL. Essential really rough tournament. 0.83, and then Kenzasor rough tournament because Kenzasor is like a player I imagine to have a 1.05, 1.07, right? He's doing a lot of hard opening. He's playing some star positions, right? He's a player who usually has a lot of impact for this team, especially on T side. In my opinion, on T side, I think he's kind of like that soldier that does everything the team needs. So MPL can play like more of the late rounds and more of the playmaker positions. So yeah, him not having a lot of impact on this tournament, I think, really costed them. And this Vitality game, I think, was actually pretty good. I think Sizzy actually showed like he can play against good opposition. So yeah, I think decent tournament, decent result for them, right? For Bait. So I'm happy with it. Astralis. So I think my opinion, Astralis has been going on a downward trend, and I think this was something I alluded to. If they don't make semifinals, this is like when I would say Astralis making top 8 at the major is probably unlikely, and I did say that, and they did make top 8, or sorry, top 6, sorry, playoffs, right? I think I said top 4 even. I think I said they should make semis. They didn't. They beat Astralis. They lose the Legacy. Legacy, which by the way, I literally said if Lotto shows up, they will be a top 6 team. What did they do? What did Lotto do? He showed up. But yeah, they lost to this. I think this was a rough tournament for Fuzi when I watched a lot of the games. Fuzi is a player who I think has very high highs, very high low lows. But I think on average he's usually more high than he is low. He's a player who I think Les Raposa posted some stats that he's actually really good with a rifle as an opper, but he's a bit whatever with an op, which is a bit strugglesome when you're playing maps like Dust 2. Um, like they played Dust 2 in this one. I know they didn't pick it. Playing things like Ancient, Mirage, even, right? These are maps where I think the op has to have impact, and if it doesn't, it's going to really struggle, especially if it's in your pool. And in my opinion, Mirage is a map in their pool. It's not their strongest map. Their strongest map is more of like Ancient, Inferno, these things. But I think Mirage is a map they're like comfortable to play, and I think Fuzi really struggles to find a lot of high value op impact. Not all the time, but sometimes. And I think that's what's been costing them is Fuzi sometimes with the op just doesn't deliver enough. And on top of that, I think Ryu has been disappointing. I think this tournament he was actually okay, if I recall. He had that one game against Sinners where he was dominating them, right? He was playing super well. I think Ryu just struggles with nerves. I think nerves is something Ryu has been, especially when you watch the cams, it looks like he gets tilted on himself and he gets very angry with himself. And somebody has pointed out that it could be because of the roles he plays, because he's playing all the like anchor, hard anchor supportive positions on CT side, and then on T side he gets to be the trader and like a bit of a star, right? Because he gets to play late round and things like that. But he struggle. I think it's like a mentality shift that you have to have. That hey, I'm now the star on T side. I get to like trade. I get to play the late rounds, and I just don't think he's developed that or switched that on. Even though he did that on Monty, I just don't think he's developed it or adapted it to tier one yet, right? Because he was a late round star on Monty. So I think it's going to be a while. Yeah, Hooksy, Fuzi having really rough tournaments. I think Stare still proving he's a top 20 player, a top 10 rifler, right, in the world. And Yabi was actually good at this tournament. So I don't really blame those two. This is more on Fuzi and Hooksy, right? Especially Fuzi. I think Fuzi was a top 20 player. I think we're starting to have questions about him being a top 20 player if he's continuing to go missing in these really important games, because even at PGL Bucharest was one of their tournaments I paid a lot of attention to Astralis at. He went missing on a lot of the games where they needed him, right? Because it was mostly Yabi and Stare who were stepping up big time in the playoffs, right? Where Fuzi went missing and in Ancient couldn't hit a shot to save his life, and not Stabby, Stare and Yabi had to carry them, right, on that. So yeah, disappointing result from Astralis. I don't expect them to make top 8 at the major now. They might go 2-3. Maybe they have a comeback, but I doubt it. Now, getting into the playoffs teams. Pain, I think, had, again, similar to 9Z, they're a one tournament wonder. They always have one tournament in the year, but they're going to do a super impressive result. They're going to upset some teams, and they're going to get a lot of VRS points out of it, right? This tournament, they did that. First, they take down FaZe. I favored FaZe in this, but Pain won it. Snow sunned Jacob. Snow does what Jacob does in Prax. On the server, though. Sorry. I tried workshopping that joke. That joke did not land, but that's fine. Then they beat Foot. This is a very serious win, in my opinion. FaZe are still like in their infancy of developing and getting consistency in these things, so I'm willing to hold off on this result. This result, I don't think it's not too shocking, but it's impressive. I wouldn't say impressive even. It's just okay, right? It's okay result. Then beating Foot, super impressive. Lunks really struggled, but it doesn't matter. They still won the game. Purio Junior uh, did very well. Then they played Bet Boom, semi-close, right? Dust 2 was their closest map. They then took Nuke, and then Anubis they lost, because I think Bet Boom are actually rather good on Anubis. Flamus, Omega carried, right? Which we will talk about Bet Boom soon. But Pain, and then they go into the quarters, and they lose to Gamer Legion. I watched this Overpass. I'm pretty sure Gamer Legion picked Overpass, and they lost it. And I'm like, oh my god, Gamer Legion are actually going to lose to Pain in quarterfinals. But Gamer Legion come back. They managed to take the series. I think Safe was actually Period Junior and Safe. I think were two standout players this tournament. I think I actually was a bit impressed by Safe's like revitalization of performance, because Safe towards the tail end of MIBR, I was not sold on this guy at all. I was like he's like, because Safe is like almost 30, right? He is 30. He's 31, right? 31-year-old AWPer wasn't delivering the numbers, and that was when I was in this like almost mindset of like, yo, save Insani. Like Insani deserves a better team than this. Um, but I think on this team, I think he showed some things. I think NQZ is still a better player, but in my opinion, I'm pretty okay with the I'm pretty okay with Safe being the replacement if he's going to continue delivering numbers like these. Snow showed me more. I said kick Snow last time. I don't think Snow was actually bad this tournament. I think Snow actually had a pretty good tournament and showed some good things. And I think he's starting to now flourish after, what, 2 years of being on Pain and having chances. So about time, for him. And then Purio Jr., I think Purio Jr. has been their best player by far. I think Purio Jr. has showed me a lot. He plays not even all the best positions on CT side or T side. And T side, he's kind of given like this playmaker role, this aggressive playmaker role, like aggressive lurking, right? Where he's allowed to go for plays, he's allowed to go for these mid round and late round activations, and he has a lot of impact within those roles. So for me, Purio Jr. and Safe are have so far lived up to being good additions to the team, and I think VSM has been disappointing, but he also plays a lot of the hard anchor spots, so I'm willing to give him some more time in those positions, because that's not what VSM was before he joined Pain. Next team is Vitality. Vitality, finally losing a tournament, finally not making semifinals after what, almost a year and a half of straight semifinals. So they finally lose. Navi finally beat them. Thank God, man. I was getting so tired of this team. I was getting so frustrated watching this team. However, there is a giant caveat, which is Vitality literally didn't practice for a week straight. Vitality traveled America, visiting Michelin star restaurants, going to national parks, and doing whatever else they wanted while waiting for this tournament to start. They didn't practice, they took it completely off. So there was a huge asterisk with this, but I think this does have a negative effect for Vitality, and I will talk about it later. So, first, in their matchup against BC Game, they managed to win it fairly convincingly. BC Game had chances in this match, but ultimately the player quality was just too high. Electronic made a pretty crucial mistake, and Skrunk's fragging is just a liability, right? Like he's a liability fragging wise. Against BetBoom, there's a massive upset. BetBoom were able to beat them. The Anubis was very well played, very well called by Boomich. I think Boomich called an amazing Anubis. Actually, was able to kind of bait them around the map and actually force them to. He like read the rotations well enough and read where the gaps were open and was able to do a lot of good mid rounding off of early plays from Magno Jez and Flamus. And then and on CT side, in my opinion, he was going for like a lot of aggression on CT side. I think on CT side, BetBoom did very well, playing aggressive, going for these mid round and early round ideas, right, and enabling their stars to get activated, right. Even Sorte, their AWPer was getting active in a lot of these moments. Nuke was overpass, they lost, right. I didn't really watch the overpass, but I did watch the nuke, and the nuke again, going for a lot of these early mid-round aggressions that Vitality were just not ready for, going for secret plays. Like I'm pretty sure there was one round where I don't know if it was Boomich or Magnojez was spamming the smoke wall on outside where Vitality were trying to cross, like it was diagonal smoke wall. And then Flamis from secret just peeks up and gets a double kill or something, right? And just wins the round automatically because it's like first their smoke wall is like wasted, right? And he got 2 kills. And it's like, well, the round's over at that point, right? They were going for some of these gimmicky plays that Vitality were not ready for. So then Vitality go down into semis. They beat FaZe fairly convincingly once on Dust 2. On Nuke, it was a close affair. They actually could have lost it. It looked like Apex and ZywOo were kind of getting tilted with each other. Not ZywOo. ZywOo was just like doing this. But Apex kept looking at ZywOo like, are you going to play the game yet? And eventually he did turn up on Dust 2, but on the and he did have some important rounds on this nuke. But it was a very close nuke. And against Bait, they beat them pretty convincingly. Sizzy was the only one that showed up. Essential really struggled. Everybody really struggled besides Sizzy. Flamesy, just smashed them. So not close, but this Navi Vitality game was really fun. And one of the it was so fun to watch this game because it was so back and forth for the first two maps. And then the third map, Navi just looked like they had it in the bag. They just looked like they were ready for all the plays that Navi were or that Vitality were going to do because Vitality haven't practiced, they haven't innovated their strat book or their playbook or anything like that. So Blade and Alexi had all that time to prepare, all that time to get ready for how they were going to play Inferno because they haven't updated it, right? And as a result, it looked like Navi just outclassed them, right? And on top of that, Wonderful, incredible series. Wonderful was so good in this series, as well as Bit. Everybody really struggled on Vitality's side, especially once they went to Inferno. I'm pretty sure Rops and ZywOo, or Rops, I think it was Rops and ZywOo had like 1 kill apiece or something like that. Maybe not ZywOo, but maybe it was Mezzy. I forget, but it looked like they just struggled on the last map of Inferno, right? And somebody brought up a point. I think it was Thorin, and I think he brought up a point about the fact that you could have skipped this tournament. Vitality could have skipped this tournament if they wanted to, and that probably would have been a better idea for the major if they wanted to peak for the major for two reasons. One, you don't give Navi hope. The fact that Navi finally beat Vitality means that Navi knows they have their foot in the door for when they come up at the major, right? Because they've already done it once. The fact that you gave this team hope after they lost you like 3 or 4 times, right, this year, the fact that you've given them now a chance to be- actually believe that they can beat you is maybe a bad sign at the major. And I think secondly, I just don't think you had to play this tournament. In my opinion, if you were gonna take the rest, take the full rest, right? Like take the break. Don't actually play this tournament. Let this tournament go by and just focus on peaking at the major. But they kind of did the in between where they're like, oh, we're gonna play but without practice, and I don't think that was a good idea, in my opinion. But yeah, Vitality. finally get a quarterfinals finish after how many semifinals in a row? BetBoom, I think BetBoom had a very impressive tournament, but again, I feel like BetBoom is one of these teams that always does have a tournament where they do surprise, similar to the South American teams where they have a one tournament a year thing. However, I saw a lot of good things from them at this tournament. This bait game was incredibly close for the first two maps. The third map was kind of a blowout. It didn't really look close. MagnoJez was incredible, as well as Flamis. This duo of MagnoJez Flamis, I think, is something that BetBoom should continue to keep. I think, in my opinion, get rid of Diladez and keep MagnoJez or keep Flamis instead. I think the how they work together on T side is very scary, and on CT side, I think it also works very well. Where Flamis is going to play some of the worst positions, where MagnoJez gets more of the star positions. Um, but I think that's a good recipe for success with this squad. Against Vitality, again, as I said, I think Boomich called a very good Anubis and Nuke. Overpass I didn't really watch. And I think MagnoJez played very well, as well as Flamis. I think both these guys are going to be the two stars for the squad to keep an eye out. They then beat Pain in the semifinals advancement match, right? Flamis plays out of his mind. And then they go up against Navi and they lose, and it's not really close. And I think it's partially because I think the team has a lack of experience on in arena events and against teams like Navi. I think against Vitality were kind of for the taking because they didn't have practice. But I feel like with Navi, when they have that much prep and that much knowledge about how a team plays, and they can watch back the footage, which Blade can do, it allows them to kind of like get a read on these teams that are a little more gimmicky, which I think BetBoom are a little more gimmicky. But I still think BetBoom had a very good tournament across the board. They lost to third place to Legacy. Nothing really to be ashamed about. I think BetBoom had a good tournament, a great tournament, even beating Vitality and making it to the semis is a perfectly valid result. Legacy was another team. Oh, yeah. Just want to pull up the stats quick. Flamis, I think they should pick him up. And MagnoJez, everybody's known that this guy was good in tier two. He was somebody I paid attention to a bit in tier two, and he kind of went on a downward. I don't know if I would call it a spiral, but there was a period where MagnoJez was kind of under delivering, and then again this year, I don't know what it is. At the start of this year, he just all of a sudden started beasting again, dropping like 1.2s, 1.3s in like tier two. So yeah, BetBoom, a team maybe to be scared of at the major. Legacy was a team that I said was going to maybe make top six if Lotto shows up, and Lotto showed up. Lotto really showed up. Lotto has come back to his 2025 form at the end of like the second half of 2025, which was where Lotto was the scariest. The late round impact player that's like a bit of a Swiss Army knife on CT side. And Lotto had an incredible tournament. I think Lotto, even at CIC, which is going on right now, I think Lotto has been incredible, and I think Lotto is back, and I think Legacy will probably do something really. I think they'll do something noticeable at the major. I think maybe you might see a playoffs Legacy, right? Depending on how well they play. But I think it's not implausible that they can make playoffs at the major. With Lotto playing this well, with Dumao playing this well, with Nissim still being relatively talented, right? Sadizin is one piece I'm a bit iffy on, but I think he's okay for Brazilian standards. And I think Arts calling wise has been good to enable like Dumao to like let him off the leash, like let him have more freedom, right? So I think overall this legacy squad is scary. Now getting into the final two. Talking points, Game Religion, my beloved. I've loved this team for quite a while, and I want to talk about Rez and HypeX. I don't want to talk about the results. This video is like 40 minutes. I'm so tired of talking. But Rez, I said last year in 2025 that Rez's peak was probably going to be Rez's peak in 2025. But in this year, it seems like he's gotten even better despite being older. He's 28 years old and he's still fragging out of his mind. This guy's mechanics, he doesn't look like he's aged a day in terms of mechanical ability, right? He still has the crispness of his first bullet headshot, of the multi kills he can deliver, right? Um, Being like that T-side soldier that opens up the map, with his crosshair placement is so pristine, so elite. So Rez, in my opinion, this could be the year that Rez makes it onto the HLTV top 20 if he continues this throughout the next season as well, because I think Rez has been so amazing, and I think he's had such an incredible career that he deserves to be recognized for it. And Hypex, Gamer Legion have finally solved their op problem. Hypex was a player who I saw in BetClick. I thought he was good, but need more development. I rated his late round impact his late round clutch ability, right? He's very decisive in the clutch. He makes a decision and he kind of just sticks with it, even if he's wrong. And I think I rate that in people who clutch. He's got a good rifle. I think he actually has a very good rifle, like very good AK. And I think on CT side, I think he's a great AWPer, right? So not a great AWPer, but a good AWPer. He's more passive. He's more late round play, like kind of more Shiro esque. He does have a bit of explosiveness, similar to like Brokey in a way, right? Where Brokey is like passive, but then he becomes explosive in the mid to late round. Hypex is kind of similar to that, in my opinion, but he's a more supportive style AWPer, more late round. And I think Gamer Legion have finally solved their AWP problem. So Gamer Legion, I'm happy they make finals. They lose, but it's kind of expected. I think this nuke game was really close, and they could have definitely taken it over the line. Rez played amazing in this final. I think Rez, in my opinion, is like if if Gamer Legion won this tournament, Rez would have been MVP easy, in my opinion. But they didn't. Navi ended up winning it, which I'm glad Navi finally won a tournament where Vitality is at it. So people can stop saying this stupid thing of like no Vitality, no win, right? Like Navi hasn't won anything because they didn't win against Vitality, but they finally win this tournament. They win a tournament with Vitality at it, and w0nderful is the MVP. Which, by the way, I said this or I had this opinion that 2025. I actually thought in 2025 w0nderful had a better year than his 2024 form, despite being not on the HLTV top 20 list, and that was because w0nderful played more. He was more reliable and more consistent, but he didn't have the pieces to actually back him up and actually help him. Like he didn't have any consistency on the roster, right? Bit was up and down throughout the years. Emma was only good at prestige playoffs. JL was a shadow of his former self, and Makaze was still developing in Raw, right? But I think w0nderful was actually better in 2025 than he was in 2024. And coming into this year, I expected him to be an HLTV top 10 player, top 8 player. Like I actually expected him to be that good, especially after the Budapest run, right? Budapest, he was amazing. He was incredible. And he started slow this year, right? PGL, Cluj-Napoca, IEM Krakow, Blast Bounty. He was slow at those tournaments. He didn't really get going. But once he got to, but once EPL finals happened, I'm like, damn, there's a w0nderful. There, he's back again. Since then, he's basically been good. He's been good again. And the thing that I like about w0nderful is I kind of made this comparison, but I didn't want to say it until I had more confirmation of watching more of the demos. But he's kind of Monacy light. And what I mean by that is because I think he's more passive than Monacy, but in my opinion, he has like kind of the same style of like opping in a way because he has like the ability to hit these incredible flicks. He has an amazing rifle. He's great in clutching. Knows a lot of supportive utility and situational utility, right? So w0nderful, in my opinion, will probably be a top 4 AWPer, probably over Molodoy this year. Molodoy, in my opinion, will be the 5th best AWPer this year because I think w0nderful has kind of broken the struggle of playoffs that he used to have because he was always great in groups, but he was struggled in playoffs, especially in the semis and the finals. But I think w0nderful has completely broken that this year, and I think he's going to be a top 4 AWPer. In my opinion, he'll be a top 8 player this year. So I'm very proud of this tournament for w0nderful. Incredible tournament across the board. 0.86 KPR on both sides, I'm pretty sure. 0.97 on CT side, 0.73 on T. High multi-kill on both, almost 30% on CT, and 20% on T, which is incredible numbers. So yeah, happy for w0nderful and happy for Navi. I think Navi, not even Makaze didn't even show up like amazingly at this tournament. I think Makaze had like a 1.08 this tournament, which is like whatever by his standards. Because in my opinion, Makaze throughout most of this year has been like a top 10 player. So yeah, that's it. That's IEM Atlanta. It took a while for me to upload this video because I got burnt out from CS. I was really tired of watching CS after last week. I watched so much CS last week, so I wanted to make this video and get this recap finally uploaded. Hopefully, it came off as coherent and my points made sense. But I'm rather tired. I've been speaking for 50 minutes straight, and I haven't drank any of my coffee. So that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. My coffee is now cold, but let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you enjoyed the tournament. IEM Atlanta. In my opinion, it was a good tournament. I watched less of it than PGL Astana, but still a great tournament. And I'm happy Navi won. So, yeah. And Rez showed that he's still my IEM Babylon MVP. All right, whatever.